In this video, I've decided to talk about all my winter tactics, all the tactics that have served me well over the years, and things that I've improved on, and things that I've learned from as well. Of course, there is other tactics out there, and I'm sure you're going to tell me all about your favourite tactics. I definitely want to hear about them. Winter is definitely the hardest part of the year for carp anglers, so it's just good to talk about the tactics, and we can learn from other people as well. Obviously, I might learn from someone else, you never know. We're always learning in carp fishing. My first tactic is solid bag. Now, everyone uses solid bags all year round. They're brilliant, especially commercial day ticket waters. They're so used to pellets on those that it's the best method ever. But in the winter it does work really well. It helps you locate those carp, and sometimes you can always change after you find them as well. You might not have to stick to solid bags, but they're great little packages just to get a quick bite in the winter. Boosting it with flavour is definitely a thing to try and do. Dunking the solid bag into liquid, or maybe putting a bit of goo in it or a bit of glug and just pouring it into it definitely improves things. I tend to use the small solid bags or extra small. I don't really want to leave too much bait out in the lake. The idea is just to try and nick a bite on that spot. Don't put too much in, don't go for huge monster bags that look like bricks. And you don't really want that in the winter. First of all, you're going to spook them because then they're very lethargic and very slow, and they don't want to do much in the winter. And just a little package of teeny little bit of bait will definitely get your bite quicker. My one's made up of 2mm pellets. Now I'm using at the moment all nut and red lobster mixture, the 2mm pellets, and I'm also using all nut stick mix. Now, obviously, the stick mix is just to cover up the hook bait inside, and also it creates a bit of a plume of like little bits and a little bit of a halo around it, and it definitely helps get a quicker bite, especially in the winter. And the hook baits, now I normally use 12mm pop-ups or wafters. The one thing I have to make sure is it's bright. It's got to be stand out. It's got to be orange or red. White does work now and then on particular lakes, but overall it's got to be really, really bright. I've done really well on yellow in the last couple of winters, but there's always different colours on different lakes, and sometimes the same colour on the same lake may not work again as well. So definitely chopping and changing, keep trying different colours, keep casting around in different areas, and it'll definitely work. My next one is make sure that you're adding extra flavour to your wafters or pop-ups you're using in the winter. You want to make sure that they stand out and they're the most smelliest thing ever, because carp are going to be very slow, they're not going to do much, and that extra flavour might just make them go crazy and they want to eat it, especially when it's freezing cold and they're just sitting there doing nothing. Add the glug or liquid or whatever you're going to add to it to boost your hook baits up. I'm using obviously the Carp Basics baits, so I'm just using the match the flavour to the bait and just keep adding it to it. So I'm using all nut and then adding all nut onto it. You add it onto it, you shake it up, and then you leave it for 3 or 4 days, get it out, and if it's dry, then put a little bit more onto it. Keep adding it, keep going with it. You want that bait to be boosting out the liquid and pumping out, and don't forget there's a lot of leaves and a lot more silt in the winter, and you just want your bait to stand out the most. Bright is also good, but also having a flavour that can stand out as well. Sometimes I loose feed a different flavour to the one of my hook bait, just to make my hook bait stand out even more, just to make sure that something is working for me. I found that if everything's the same flavour and then you put one out the same flavour as well, it takes longer to get a bite because it's looking for the same flavour overall. But if you've got one that stands out over the top of them, then they're more likely to go for your hook bait first, and yeah, it's more likely to work for you as well. Having a bait that's constantly working is much better. Fishing with boilies. Now, in the winter, carp are much more slower, their digestion's not very good. The warmer they are, the more they're going to eat. So I find when I'm fishing with boilies to make them as soft as possible, I either using freezer baits or soaking them in water for about 24 hours before fishing. And then what I would do is add a glug or a liquid to that just to boost it up, just to make sure that the boilies are soaking in a little bit more extra flavour as well. And that seems to work really well, especially on lakes that are really silty. And also, like I said, there's a lot of leaves and a lot of rubbish on the bottom of lakes, so it's definitely something to try. And it can get you bites when you didn't think you would. Just when you're putting out like standard shelf life baits, they're not going to do as well, especially on lakes that have got a lot of silt on them. They're just not going to do nothing. They're going to soak up the silt and then that's done. But if you make sure that they're full of water and liquid, they're pumping it out constantly, they're going to do something for you. They're going to attract them in, and also they're softer as well, which is easier for the carp to eat. So that's all good. And the last tactic is maggots. Now, we've all used them in the past, I'm sure we have. If you haven't used it, it is fiddly. Okay, it is. It's a bit tricky. I've tried it in so many different ways. I've tried a ball of maggots, I've tipped it up with foam, all sorts. My favourite way, but my favourite one is just put 8 maggots tipped off of a bright bait, usually yellow, but pink works as well. And I've tried white as well in the past and done well on that. On particular lakes though, clearly that some lakes work better than others, and some lakes maggots is like the dominant thing to try in the winter, and some lakes it's just pellets. So you don't really know. It's worth trying on every type of lake you go onto, and then maybe try different tactics. But maggots are not like the 100% the one, it just depends on the lake. Over the top I normally put maggots, crumbed up boilies, pellets, and I'll probably add either a liquid or a glug to that just to thicken it up, obviously to spom it out to the spot, or bait boat if you're going to use a bait boat. You can put like casters in the mix as well and mix around with other things, you know, bloodworm maybe, it might be quite a good idea. But overall, it's just putting some kind of naturals in with other things and then putting over the top. Some people just use maggots, you know, you can just use a couple of gallons of maggots and then just a hook bait with maggots on top. I mean, that's pretty good as it is, but I like to put in a bit of flavour and a bit of crumb. I like to mix it up. I like to bulk it out with some other things and keeps them busy, I suppose. So they're eating a pellet and they're a bit of boilie. Just keeps them moving, I think so anyway. I think with maggots, you can attract too many other species in, and I think it could be a bit more of a challenge. It is a really good tactic and it does work really well, but on particular lakes. So there are all my winter tactics. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sure there is something there for you to take on board. If there's not, then you know, at least you can listen to me for babble on about my winter tactics. I'm sure there is other winter tactics. I've heard of people using maize and corn and hemp and stuff like that in the winter and done really well. I find that is more of a spring thing for me, but you know, I'm willing to try things, new things. If anyone's got an idea of any kind of winter tactics, I'd love to try them and see what happens really. Maybe I'll do it in a video. If someone gives me a really good suggestion on that, I might try it, you never know. So thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.